Hello and welcome to the WP Builds newsletter number 12. This newsletter is covering the week commencing the 7th of May 2018. First item up this week is just one from our own website. It's episode number 75 of the WP Builds podcast, where I get to talk with Elliot Condon about his enormously successful and cool plugin ACF, or Advanced Custom Fields. If you haven't listened to this episode, it's really quite cool. He tells us an awful lot about himself and his plugin and its future in Gutenberg, so go check that out. Okay, the next item is from the WP Tavern website, and it's entitled WordPress 4.9.6 Beta 1 adds tools for GDPR compliance. This makes me very happy. WordPress in 4.9.6 is going to have quite a lot of controls and things added that you've not seen before to enable you to achieve a proportion of GDPR compliance. So, for example, when you initially create an install of WordPress, you're going to have the option to sort of automatically create a privacy policy page, and it will give you a template in which you can put whatever you like and, remove text and add text to it so that it fits. You're going to have the option to for people to request removal of their own data. They can request it. You will then send them an email via the UI, the admin UI, and then they will respond to that email and they'll be able to download the data that they've got, and then presumably you can, do things with that. For example, you could delete things if they request you to. But I just like the fact that WordPress have taken this on and are offering what they can in the next version of WordPress, so that's very cool. Yoast SEO are offering a free SEO course. It's called SEO for Beginners. I guess it's a little bit on the basic side if you're a true SEO expert, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. If SEO is something that you're new to and not particularly adept at, it might be worth checking out this utterly free course. It's got sections called Introduction to SEO, the content side of SEO, the technical side of SEO, and they're broken down into various little learning sections. So might be worth checking out. The next one is from the Elementor blog, and they have introduced something called Role Manager. Now, the idea of Role Manager is that you'll be able to protect your precious designs so that clients will be able to interact or not interact depending on the permissions that you set. So, for example, in the free version of Elementor, you can simply restrict certain user roles from accessing Elementor, and in the pro version, you can prevent certain user roles from accessing Elementor or allow them to edit existing content inside the editor. So basically, you've got this sort of granular approach to, well, you can edit this, but you can't edit that. You can move this, but you can't move that. And the idea really is that you will set up your design and allow them to simply edit certain proportions, so certain portions, and keep the design intact. I think it's it's a nice idea, and I think this thing has been waiting to happen for a while. So yeah, worth checking out. If you are a CSS Hero user, they have updated to version 3.1. CSS Hero is a sort of, how to describe it? It's like a floating panel that floats on the side of your website and enables you to point and click and alter CSS classes and IDs and change fonts and that kind of thing. They've added a whole bunch of new stuff. Frankly, it's all very technical, but it might be worth you checking out exactly what's new so that when it updates, you're up to speed if you're editing your CSS through CSS Hero. Okay, the next one, OS Training, which is an organization that I have a subscription for because they offer lots and lots of cool training. They have a How to Use WooCommerce series of videos that have come out, and my understanding is that this is behind a paywall, but I'm going to be looking at it nevertheless because I basically don't ever dabble in WooCommerce, and I thought it might be worth my while. If you're not a subscriber and you've got no interest in subscribing, probably one item to avoid, but it looks like they've got some kind of offer on over the next few days. Okay, the next item is from Talk, And this is a very nice piece indicating what it is that you would get if you were to use a self-hosted install of WordPress with the desktop app called Calypso. Now, you may or may not know that there is a WordPress desktop app called Calypso, and it interacts with WordPress via the REST API. There's an awful lot that you can do, and there's an awful lot that you can't do. There are certain things which are impossible for you to do, and certain things which are trivially easy to do. It's a bit of a mixed bag. If you're just doing basic content editing, it will speed up your workflow. That's the intention. But if you're doing more complicated things, then potentially not. You'll need to have Jetpack installed, and so there's a whole bunch of caveats, but this article just explores what you get, why it might be worthwhile, and when it wouldn't be worthwhile. So if you've never experimented with it and you fancy trying it and seeing if you can speed up your work, then yeah, I think this is the way things are going to go. My guess is that all sorts of fun things over the next few years will be leveraging the WordPress REST API, and this is just one cool example of what's possible. Okay, the next one, I know that lots of you are running courses or building course websites for your clients. I've been exploring an option called Lifter LMS recently, and I came across this WP Mayer article, which tells me about 7 different LMS add-ons which can power up the LMS. Lifter LMS. Now, an LMS is a learning management system, so it's for creating courses, but it's fascinating that in the WordPress ecosystem, one plugin can have satellite plugins which plug into the plugin. It's just brilliant, isn't it? So there's one called Launchpad, which allows you to design things. There's a WooCommerce integration. There's group registration. There's social learning, which enables you to do collaboration. There's advanced quizzes. There's assignments, which allow you to do things offline. And then there's private areas so that you can communicate between you and your students can communicate between each other. Okay, the next one is the first one, which is nothing to do with WordPress. This is called The Decline of Social Traffic and the SEO Renaissance. It is on the Talk blog, which is a WordPress blog, but nevertheless it's not particularly to do with WordPress. And it's an interesting statistic that in the space of a year, Google has now surpassed Facebook again in the amount of traffic that it's generating for websites. Now, if you go back over a year, Facebook was doing a fantastic job and was eclipsing Google, but conversions, 40% of traffic used to come from Facebook, and now that's dropped to 22%. So that's a pretty dramatic decrease. And it seems like the absolute flip side has happened with Google. So all of those people who've invested heaps and heaps of time on their social platforms, possibly there's now a shift going on. You need to go back to Google. I don't know if that's just fatigue with Facebook and social platforms in general, but this seems to be a trend, and if you look at the graphs that they're showing, it's definitely not a blip. It is a trend over a period of a year. So get your SEO stuff sorted out if it's important to you. Okay, this is the Kinster blog, but it's really not WordPress related. This is an article for people who are running, well, potentially WooCommerce or e-commerce websites. And it's about fraud using credit cards, which takes a whole variety of forms. So somebody steals the number and then buys something and sells it on. Anyway, Stripe, which is a very, very large platform for processing credit cards, has actually got a service called Stripe Radar, which you can opt into. And Radar enables you to really inspect whether things have been purchased fraudulently or not. And Kinster have apparently reduced their problem with chargebacks and credit card fraud by 98% by moving over to Radar, which is on version 2.0. I confess I've not tried it, but just, there's probably a whole load of people that you are dealing with using WooCommerce, and maybe a lot of them are frustrated by this exact problem, and so maybe offering them Stripe Radar might be useful. And the very last one is a huge article on the Smashing Magazine blog, all about one person's, I forget his name actually, do forgive me, I think Chris Ashton, I think his name was. It's about how he turned off JavaScript for a day, and it is enormous, but basically goes around the web, including his own site, his WordPress site, and then various other places on the web. And he finds out what the effect is of switching off JavaScript. Now, not many people do have JavaScript turned off, but there is a proportion of people that do. And it's just absolutely fascinating what breaks and what doesn't. Amazon, not so good. Other websites do really well, and there's virtually no change at all. It might be fascinating just to look at your own website to see if it's a dramatic fail or an absolute thumbs up. It looks almost identical. Anyway, worth reading, and just a bit of a silly one at the end. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this news article. Please listen to the podcast and share it and give us 5-star iTunes reviews. That would be great. We have a Slack channel. It's wpbuilds.com/Slack. Facebook group is /Facebook. And I hope you have a lovely week. Bye-bye.